Komnas Perempuan includes women with disability affected by gender-based violence. Komnas Perempuan, or the National Commission for Women, recognizes disability as a priority area and now addresses the issues of women with disability in their program activities and organizational processes. First, the starting point. Prior to working with AIPJ in 2012, Komnas Perempuan, or KP, was aware of the experiences of women with disability who had been victims of violence. They were aware that there were many women with disability who were victims of violence and that most had difficulty accessing services from hospitals, law enforcement agencies, and justice services. Although disability was a priority issue for KP in their strategic plan, their response at this time was more on a case-by-case basis rather than through a strategic approach. They had not completed any research on the issues faced by women with disability and had not made contact with TPOs working in this area. This meant they had limited depth of knowledge and understanding of the specific contributing factors and real experience of the woman. In 2011, KP was introduced to the AIPJ Disability Program team. This provided an opportunity for KP and IPJ to work together on a number of activities that helped strengthen KP's understanding and knowledge of women and disability. AIPJ supported the activities that were implemented during 2012 and 2013. Second, progressing disability inclusion. What took place? The AIPJ Disability Team introduced KP to DPOs in Indonesia that are working on the rights of the women with disability. The exchanges of information and resources that took place with a range of DPOs helped the staff at KP to understand the real situation of discrimination and exclusion, and the different form of violence that the women with disability experience in Indonesia. One example of a resource that helped staff to better understand the scope of the issues was the video shared by the Yogyakarta DPO Sabda, or Sentra Advokasi Perempuan Difabel dan Anak. The Australian Human Rights Commission, or AHRC, shared their experiences of including women with disability in their work. This was done through a series of training workshops with KP that included DPOs. This helped to build the knowledge and understanding of the commissioners and staff and raise their awareness of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, or UNCRPD, and the importance for KP as a Human Rights Commission to focus on issues related to women in the CRPD, particularly as Indonesia had at the time recently ratified the convention. KP has tried to disseminate information on the CRPD to different government agencies and ministries and NGOs and CSO as a way to try and increase their awareness and understanding on disability rights. The participants of representatives of the DPOs in the workshops helped to strengthen links and networking between KP and the DPOs. Joint activities were implemented by KP with DPOs. This included workshops and seminars to help raise awareness to other CEOs, NGOs, and government agencies about the CRPD and specific issues related to women with disability. These events provided opportunities for wider networks and links to be formed between the participants, particularly KP and the DPOs. KP identified an opportunity for DPOs and CSO to contribute to Indonesia's Civil Society Report for the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, or ICCPR. AIPJ resourced the technical supports, and with inputs from KP, the report was completed over a very tight time schedule in February 2013 by DPO members from National Coalition Komnas Difabel, representatives from national DPOs, HWGI, Pertuni, and Jakarta DPO Sehjira and Persani from NTT. This report was presented at the meeting of the UN Human Rights Committee from 11th to 28th of March 2013 in Geneva. This was the first time that DPOs in Indonesia had contributed to a report in an international human rights process. Komnas Perempuan provide opportunity and support for DPOs contribute to civil society's report on international human rights. The strategies that were used: capacity strengthening of KP staff and commissioners of KP on disability issues and of DPOs on broader human rights specifically related to women. International technical capacity and experience of the Australian Human Rights Commission and Australian DPO shared with Indonesia DPOs and with KP. Networking opportunities created and supported between KP, DPOs, and other CSOs on the issues of disability, violence against women, and women's rights. Joint action between DPOs with KP was facilitated and supported by AIPJ in the preparing and writing of the report for the ICCPR process. The influence of KP as a commission for women was used by AIPJ and the DPOs for engaging and advocating the National Human Rights Commission, or Komnas HAM, other government agencies and mainstream CSOs and NGOs on disability rights. Factors that supported the positive changes: dedicated resources from AIPJ that enabled KP to have capacity to engage and facilitate in activities and supported the DPOs and CSOs to participate. Strong DPOs with interest and relevant expertise in women and disability rights, access to justice, and violence against women. KP already had interest and some experience in disability and recognized it as an important and relevant issue. Factors that did not support the changes as had been expected or created challenges. Limited capacity of Komnas Perempuan due to many pressing demands and large programs they are involved in meant that they could not extend their partnership with AIPJ beyond 2013. Capacity constraints slowed and delayed implementation of certain planned activities, including making the website accessible and publications of manuals and guidelines. Government system for planning approval. Staff recruitment and financial management are slow and delayed work. Lack of institutional support from donors. For example, staff salaries not paid for in project is a factor that reduced available capacity to commit to the work. KP was not included in the drafting of the new disability law, meaning that the inputs that they gave were done late in the process. Third, the organizational changes that have occurred in relation to mainstreaming disability. KP now manages disability as a priority cross-cutting issue. In its work in other programs, for example, Mampu or Maju Perempuan Indonesia untuk penanggulangan kemiskinan, they are including disability issues in their work at a local level with CSO and local governments. One example is at a community level, they have helped to establish a community center where women come and discuss issues. In this program, action will be taken to ensure disability is one of the issues discussed and that women with disability participate and access the services offered. KP is trying to make itself a more disability-sensitive and inclusive organization. In 2014, during the recent selection process for new commissioners, KP approached certain DPO leaders to see if they were interested to be nominated. Unfortunately, due to the timing of the selection, those approached were not available. However, 2 women with disability from DPOs that KP has worked with were part of the selection and interview panel for new commissioners. KP hopes that when the next elections are held in 5 years, that women with disability will be amongst those nominated. In quote, "We have equipped ourselves with more knowledge and have a wider network on disability, and when we want to discuss violence against women with disabilities, we not only discuss with DPOs but with other NGOs, KP staff. Through its internal policies, KP has also tried to make adjustments to make the work environment more accessible. Security personnel have been trained on how to interact with people with disability, and they are now far more sensitive and inclusive. KP has applied to government make the work environment accessible and hopes in the future a lift will be installed in their office. A GPO was contracted to provide new staff with training on issues and strategies for inclusion of women with disability. Fourth, key lessons learned about progressing disability inclusion at an organizational level. Having some prior practical experience and exposure to disability helps create interest and commitment for the organization to improve the capacity of its staff. Sharing the knowledge and experience of GPOs is an important factor that contributes to strengthening capacity of staff about disability. Commitment at a strategic level to disability as a cross-cutting priority helps ensure it is included in a broader program initiatives and in organizational policies. Convening different actors on an issue of shared interest can lead to collaboration and joint action and helps provide an accessible pool of technical resources and capacity. Funding for human resource capacity is needed in addition to project funding in order to have dedicated personnel to progress new strategic initiatives.